Let me get the recording started, and there we go. So yeah, let me just get through the presentation for tonight, and then we'll entertain comments and questions. Okay? So that'll streamline things. So, folks, we're here tonight to discuss alternatives for doing business and keeping the state off your back. It's really quite a terrible thing that's going on right now around the country. How people's rights are being violated up one side and down the other, and there's a reason for that, you know. And then we're partly to blame for it because of our own lack of knowledge in certain areas. All right, so let me pull up some information that's going to be helpful for us all. I've got a little bit of a slideshow, and it won't take too long, fairly short. Let me go to screen share, select, share, and there we go. All right, so we're talking about the Private Membership Association. Just a second, let me turn off my video and put that down, and we'll get going again. So I'm sure this is not a new concept to many of you who have heard of this before. Perhaps you're already involved in one somewhere. We will be adding a little bit of a new twist, perhaps a big twist, as to how this actually gets structured and organized. All right, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in just a minute, but let's just cover the basics for the time being and understand what makes this thing work. Okay, the first thing we have to really be clear on: what is the public? Most businesses do business with the public. All right, and that affects the community as a whole. It's open to everybody, all persons, all right, or people, or men and women, whatever term you prefer to use. All right, then we have to understand commerce. Okay, of course, this is the exchange of goods and services, especially on a large scale. Now, the Commerce Clause in the US Constitution gives Congress the exclusive power to regulate commerce. And so, that being the case, we have to understand that commerce with the public is a regulated activity. Okay. I'll tell you what else is a regulated activity is when you apply for a driver's license, you're engaged in transportation, and using the word of art as they do in the statutes, they basically trick you through lack of informed consent to admit that you are engaged in transportation, which is a commercial activity, moving goods and services for hire. So thus, that is a regulated activity and it needs to be licensed. Now, when you take the family out to dinner or to church on Sunday, is that a commercial activity? No, it's not. That's private activity. You don't need to be licensed for private activity. Many people are finding this out and removing their automobile and driver's license from the system and traveling as a matter of right in a private vehicle, okay? As opposed to driving in transportation, which is a regulated activity. Many of you understand that scenario. So that's a good illustration of how and why that works. So when we move into the private, as opposed to the public, naturally this is belonging to a particular person, as in private property, or it affects somebody in particular, or a small group of people in particular. Okay, it's confined to or intended only for the people immediately concerned, confidential, all right, as in a private meeting. Okay, so we understand that concept, but it's important to review because these are the principal elements that our proposal will rely upon here in just a minute. So when you're open to the public, let's say you have a restaurant or a bookstore or whatever your business is, if you're open to the public, you are engaged in commercial activity with the public at large, and that's generally a regulated activity. All right, regulations are in place to serve the public interest. All right, which is generally to protect the public, or so the story goes. Licensure, honestly, is nothing more than an attempt to monopolize a particular industry, to keep people out and generate fees and control the population. But we won't get into that political discussion tonight. All right, but you understand commercial activity is regulated, especially when you're dealing with the public. So this is your biggest weakness right here. This is how they get you. You've got a corporate charter. Who issues a corporate charter? The state. The state controls that which it creates. In fact, we could say the creator of anything controls that which it creates. Okay, that's just a fundamental maxim of universal law. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot of explanation. All right, so the state will control you and your business if you've got a corporation, an LLC, a partnership, or a statutory trust. So, but the problem is, well, this is how we've been brought up to do things. This is what you do. This is what you do to limit your liability. This is what you do when you want to set up a business. You want to be official. You want to be approved. You want to be compliant within the laws. I mean, this is what we believe, because this is what we've been taught all our life, that this is the only option. But it's not the only option. Okay, so let's talk about that. Now, moving from the public over into the private, as you well know, you've got protected rights. You know, the First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendments give you the right to assemble. You can hang out with the people you want. There's no restrictions. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects in their private abode. So if you have a private location, nobody can trespass upon that without a warrant, supported by a probable cause, affidavit, okay? Due process. Can't be deprived of life, liberty, or property. So there's a lot of things that fall into that classification of liberty. You know, you're living, you're making a living, you're at liberty to come and go as you like, to do what you like, so long as you don't harm anybody else, cause any public nuisance. Okay, so these are fundamental rights. We're all well aware of that. And so we're going to rest on those in addition to the contract clause. Okay, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, blah, 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 or pass any law impairing the obligations of contract. And this is extremely important. Okay, find this in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. So this imposes prohibitions on the states, all right? These are meant to protect people from intrusion by state governments and to keep the states from intruding on the enumerated powers of the US federal government, okay? What kind of chaos would we have if contracts could be violated on a whim? Oh, that contract, we're going to violate that just because. And so the person who has the obligation to you, we're going to relieve him of that obligation and nullify this contract. What kind of a world would we live in if that were the case? And you know, the electricity that makes the global society work is commerce. Commerce is the electricity that shoots all over the world. And so commerce is sacrosanct and cannot be violated. And what's the base root of commerce? That would be contracts. So you see the importance of contracts. And that's what we're going to rely on in this particular solution, which is to create a private members association. We're not dealing with the public. We're not dealing with the state. We have a very special type of arrangement that can be set up for this, which is totally immune from the state. So let's look at this. All right. Before you make any changes in your business, you're operating a corporation, an LLC, or some other form of state creature. All right. Again, what the state creates, it can control. So you have this nice corporate charter, and the public comes over to your business, and you're just sailing along just fine until somebody causes some problem, some complaint, some compliance officer comes and wants to ruin your life. And I've seen it happen just out of the blue. People absolutely, doing nothing wrong, but that's just the nature of the beast here. And so they sent the enforcement arm, and all of a sudden you, as the owner, you become the target. Well, you're in violation, or we changed the rules, or we got a new law and we're going to make it retroactive, and you're going to have to pay for the previous 5 years of difference in your workman's compensation benefits. I've seen cases like that. Just putting a business owner in an impossible situation. Okay. So long as you run that corporation, you're the owner, you're going to be the target of whatever the state wants to do with you and that company. All right. And these days now, if you are in defiance of the governor's order to do all this social distancing and pandemic preparation and business shutdowns and this, that, and everything else, you've got a problem. Okay. So when we convert this to a private membership association in the form of a contract business organization, CBO, which is just that, it's a business organization that is essentially a contract, which cannot be violated, by the way, and it takes on the form of a trust. Just out of laziness, we call it a trust, but it's not a statutory trust that would become a creature of the state and that most people would typically use in the event of wanting a trust for any reason. So this contractual business organization is a private contract which sets up a trustee in the form of a trust. You, as an operator of the business, now merely become a hired hand. And so the state, first of all, no longer has access to anything going on in the business because the business is not a state created creature. It's private. It's a private contract. And they have no authority to violate any contract. Okay? Should there be any inquiries, you as a hired hand could simply refer that inquirer to the trustee. Now, it just so happens that company I'm involved with does this type of thing and has a trustee in Europe. The trustee could be anywhere. You could appoint a trustee in your backyard. That's fine. But naturally, you want it to be a bit removed and not so easily accessible for harassment. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. Near or far, that trustee then becomes the point of contact and not you. You're just busy running the business. Okay? So there's a big wall that goes between the state. The state has no interest in the business whatsoever. And you, guess what? You are no longer a target. You're no longer a target. I'm hearing some beeping in the background. Please, everybody, make sure your mic is on mute. So here we end up in a situation that with a PMA, there's no registrations required, which means your information is totally private. There's no public information available to anybody who wants to be nosy and inquire. So that means that takes you off the hot seat right off the bat. No fees to pay. You're exempt from taxes. There's no licenses required because you have a fundamental right to contract. You have a fundamental right to work. You have a fundamental right to associate with the people you want to associate with. And because you're not asking for any special privilege from the state, they have no interest to compel you to perform according to the statutes of the state. Okay, so no permits are required, no licenses. All right, you're acting in the private. It's a totally different jurisdiction, and that's what people need to understand. They need to understand how jurisdiction works. Okay, I'm a pastor of a church, and we're teaching people how to come out of Babylon and operate in the jurisdiction of the kingdom of heaven. That we're no longer involved in the Babylonian system of the state. That's a whole separate discussion that we're doing trainings on in another venue for anyone who's interested. Okay, so MMG Capital Management and Trust, you can make a note of the website there, and on the video tutorials page in the menu, and I'll show you that in a minute, there is a video that goes into quite some detail as to the nature and the legal foundations of the contractual business organization that we use and that we would recommend in this particular case. So let's go there now. I'll put this down. And gotta go to a new page. Here it is. Okay, so this is the website. And I won't give you the full tour. You can do that on your own time, but I just want to show you where you can go for more information. I just clicked video tutorials, and I'm going to scroll down. Let the images come in here. And this second presentation down, building your personal fortress. This is quite an extensive, in-depth look as to what this creature is, how it works, why it works, and why it's so effective. And I've had experience with this of clients who were doing things that attracted the attention of the authorities, and there was an actual court case involved of criminal nature, and they wanted all kinds of information, you know, full disclosure from the trust. And so the guy pointed him to the trustee, and the trustee made a couple of comments to illustrate the nature of the situation, and there's nothing the authorities could do. Absolutely nothing. And they had to fold up their tent and go home. The case collapsed against the guy. They couldn't get the information. Okay. So, you know, the whole thing these days for political correctness is that, oh, well, you know, today we live in the age of transparency. You got to lay everything out on the table. You need to let everybody know everything about your life. And I say, the heck I do. You know, they say, well, you know, if you don't want to be transparent, what have you got to hide? And I said, I'll tell you what, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm living my life the way I want to live it. I'm not bothering anybody. And I have everything to hide. As soon as there's information about you out there, you know how it can be misused and abused. And, you know, that's the problem with social media. You know where criminal investigators go to start their investigations? The first place they go is Facebook. Many people have been charged based on their admissions and confessions and the stuff they put on social media. So how convenient is that for criminal investigators? Now, I'm not saying you're a criminal and need to hide anything. What I'm saying is your privacy, without privacy, you have no security. So if you want security, you better start thinking about your privacy. Okay, and so there's a number of things you can start doing to start to get off the databases, cancel your registrations, change how you receive your mail, a variety of things along those lines. That's a whole separate discussion we might get into at another time. So anyway, that's the video. There are some other interesting videos, more related to investments, but this is the one of interest that we're referring to tonight. Okay, that will get you a lot of information on the contractual business organization that we would recommend for a private member association. Now, I know there's a million questions about, what if and how to and where do I go and how do I do this and how do I do that? How do I set up banking and operate that way? And there's answers to all of those questions. All right, we're not going to get into the nitty gritty tonight. Obviously, one common question that comes up is, well, what's the cost of trying to do this? And here's what we're going to do. We're going to try and make it affordable for everybody. And so the cost is going to be on a sliding scale so that those who can least afford it would still have the opportunity to take advantage of this. Okay. So we want to make this available to everyone based on whatever your situation is. And that's the idea. All right. But there's time, energy, and hard costs involved in setting that up. But what's it worth to be free from taxes, fees, fines, registrations, criminal charges, and everything else that goes with being associated with criminals? You know who I'm talking about. So that's that. I would like to hear from folks who have a PMA. Looks like Cheryl has one. She's had one for 5 years. Good. Well, Cheryl, tell us what you did, if you don't mind. Can you unmute yourself, Carol or Cheryl? There's different ways of structuring this. And yeah, you can do this yourself. There's no reason why not. It's just a matter of how comfortable you might be with the nature of the organization and its character and functionality. Cheryl, are you there? Guess not. Okay. Who else has been involved in one, maybe, or set one up? Annie has a private ministry. Now that's the way to go, as far as I'm concerned. What I've done, I've set up a church using one of these structures, a little bit different, more geared towards an ecclesiastical society. And I set up a church, and everything I do is under the guise of a church. As far as my personal activity, I am a pastor of a church, but anybody can start a church and be a minister of your own church. So that I think is the strongest way to go. Now, that may not lend itself real well to certain types of businesses. Okay. So just for personal matters, I think that would be the great way to go. But in terms of having some activity that's generating cash flow for you, you might want to maybe have a couple different forms, along those lines. So who else we have here? So Annie, you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
Sure. I'm in Delaware. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. All right. I had a small S corp from 87 till 2012. of course, you get sold this stuff by the accountants and the attorneys and everything because they're the ones making money on it all.
Yeah.
And, after some years and dealing with some stupidity, I realized that the state was making out like a fat rat, and I was paying the price for it. And I had a good accountant, so the tax issues, I never paid any taxes. Everything that came in went back out, so that part was all right. But you're subject to all these. You get a state license, but then with a service business, you have to then have a license in all these little towns, and they weren't too bad when they were $20 or $25, but then they jumped up to $100 a piece and $250 a piece, which was absolutely ridiculous. And it got to the point, all these expenses that were going out, the overhead was you're working for the state. So I downsized till I had just one friend or two people helping me. I have a seasonal business, so I've got 2 months out of the year where I pretty much am nothing coming in anyway. And I created a private ministry, which is set up like a church. Everything is and ecclesiastical also, and it's so even the wording in the trust is that the trustees have to keep everything private. So it nothing can be released at all. I mean, even though there's really nothing to hide, I'm doing the same thing now that I've done, for 38 years. And I just set it up as a private membership. I don't advertise in the public. I don't, I charge a small fee in the beginning of the year, and then I give that credit back to the customer. So there's even evidence of a membership fee, and it's worked out. It's worked out wonderful. Last year I had the little code enforcement officer here in our town, like watching me. I I'm not doing this, but I'm almost 62, so I'm not doing the volume of work that I used to do. This guy, like, oh, I saw you cutting grass over here, and now you're over here, and he has this little paper wanting to offer the town license, but well, you have to have this, and he sat there and listened to me for about an hour, and I gave him a good education, and it's like, I'm working in the private, and he said, well, how do you get paid? I said, well, that's private too. I deal in lawful money or bartering. I don't, and everything's endorsed properly that way with banking and everything. So it's worked out good, and nobody's bothered me in a while. So it's a good way to go. And I was looking because I sent this invitation tonight to one of the members of our assembly, because she has an LLC, and is kind of overwhelmed with all the information she's been learning the last couple months. And I was talking to her about CSN and the NECA, and I mean, she's got so much on her plate right now anyway. But I was looking to see if she was here because I saw where she needs to dissolve this LLC and go, and she could go to something private like this without any problem at all.
Yeah.
So, but is there going to be a recording of this? Because I would love for her to listen.
Yes, absolutely. All of our
Okay.
are recorded.
Okay. All right. I went in and I set my account up with CSN, and I did the contact with the person that I was set up to work with, and they haven't I mean, tomorrow will be day 3, and I haven't heard back from them yet. And I know I'm changing the subject. Is that
put in a ticket at CSN and
okay?
Try and get that handled for you right away.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Be sure to put in all the information. Who is the person or their username? Just try and make it easy on us.
Sure. Yeah, I don't want it to go too long before I run into a dead end.
Yeah, well, we'll solve that one way or the other, so don't worry about it.
Okay. All right.
So great. Well, glad to hear you're already on track, and that's a great testimonial about operating in the private. That's what we all need to do. You know, break our ties with the state, and the state won't control you anymore. Learn how to reclaim your authority, your God-given rights. You were born with rights from God, but they've been usurped because you volunteered to give them away unknowingly. There's been fraud in the inducement. When you've applied for your social security number, when you apply for benefits, when you apply for your driver's license, they didn't tell you about the options. They didn't educate you about living in the private. That's just what you're supposed to do, right? Well, it is what you're supposed to do if you want to be controlled by the state. And that's what the state wants. They want a lot of, farmers out there toiling in the field, bringing home the crops for them every day. And that's what we do dutifully. So it's a shift of thinking. It's a shift of paradigms. It's a shift of mindset. So Annie, thank you for your testimony. And I think that's
You're
a
welcome.
great example for everyone else.
I gave back the driver's license 2.5 years ago.
Oh, beautiful.
Well, we have, I mean, we're all set up. I mean, I'm the coordinator for the Delaware Assembly. And we've gotten to the point where we have state, national, state citizen credentials, private plates for our automobiles. I mean, it's just wonderful. So,
I know of a church, maybe you've heard of it, some of you, the Embassy of Heaven Church, and they have their own registration system. They issue titles, certificates of title. All the documents that the state would ask for, you can get it from the Kingdom of Heaven. So, in fact, I've used them. Show me your registration. Oh yeah, I have registration. Well, what's this? This isn't from the state. No, it's registered with the church. You want my registration? There it is. They can't accuse you of not registering your vehicle.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, all our stuff is all in the trust too. So
yeah. So the benefits are wonderful. It's a free feeling, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You don't get harassed. I mean, how many people are having their lives ruined because these bureau rats, are looking for brownie points and want to climb the corporate ladder at your expense. So, and it's getting to the point now where we're just under absolute despotism, with, these communists that are in seats of power just about everywhere. And so it's a real challenge trying to deal with these people. So all I can say is arm yourself with knowledge and put that knowledge into action, because knowledge without action is worthless. So good. All right. Anybody else have an experience they'd like to share, or some knowledge, or involved with a PMA? Because I know they're out there. A lot of chiropractors and alternative medical practitioners use this, and this is something that's been in use for quite some time. And yeah, you do your research and you can do it yourself. It's just that the way the system that's set up with MMG Capital, it's quite advanced. There's quite an infrastructure there, and it's about as bulletproof as you could ever get, especially if you'd like a professional trustee set up in Europe somewhere. Who knows how to deal with it. It's a matter of setting yourself up so that your life is like an onion. If they get through one layer, they've got about 99 more layers to get through in order for them to get what they want. And that becomes daunting. And it doesn't take long before some of these lazy bureau rats say to themselves, you know what, I could go probably find another victim and my life would be a lot easier. And so they just leave you alone. So isn't that a beautiful thing? Go about living your life as you should. So that is that. Anybody who might want to follow up on this, I urge you go look at the video that I showed you, Building Your Financial Fortress on MMG Capital. contractual.biz. That'll give you some really sound education in terms of the legal foundation of this unique animal that we use. And there's many forms and types that you can set up for yourself. And I highly recommend, especially if you can back it up with your own personal beliefs, I highly recommend to investigate setting up a ministry and or a church under the ecclesiastical banner and come out of Babylon. Come out of her, my people. Do not participate in her, so you do not share in her plagues. Look at the plagues coming upon the world right now. Do you want to be a part of that when things fall apart? War breaks out, whatever the case might be. We're on the verge of war right now. In fact, we're already in war with China. Just hasn't gotten kinetic yet, but it's likely to. So the world is upside down, and I'll just drop one more note for you. If you'd like to explore that angle on the ministry or the ecclesiastical angle, I invite you to visit World Mission Church, which is World Missions with an S on the end, worldmissions.world. It's not .com, it's .world. Go there, explore the website. Some great messages on the blog if you're spiritually inclined. And we hold weekly trainings on that coming out of Babylon. A little bit different approach there. So, all right. Any other comments or questions you'd like to bring up? Now's the time. Everybody good? All right. So I hope this has been informative. Oh, Charles. Yeah, I see Charles has his hand up. Go ahead, Charles. Charles, we're not hearing you.
I got a question, Mark.
All right, Jacob, go ahead.
How did we do in the MMG managed accounts this month? Did we get the results yet, or they come in yet?
Well, there's a couple of accounts, depends on where you came in.
In the Silver Trust account.
Yeah. Send an inquiry by email. All
okay.
Right. We'll get into
All right.
Uh-huh.
Looking forward to good news.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Coming out of Babylon also means financial freedom, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
So
all right, well, let's go to Juanita. Hi, Juanita.
Hey, Mark. Quick question. The video that you were talking about on your MMG site, I'm on your site right now. I'm looking for it and I can't find it.
It's on the video tutorials page.
I see video resources. Is that where you're talking? Is that it?
Are you on mmgcapital.biz?
I am.
Uh-huh.
So it must be the video resources. I was just looking for the exact name of.
Well, yeah, whatever the video page. There's only one.
Okay, would it be the Building Your Personal Fortress, the Contractual Business Trust?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, I guess that's all for tonight then. We'll wrap it up. I'll come back next week. And these, just so you know, these recordings are being archived and available in the community center for CSN. So you need to be a member of CSN, get set up there, and then click on updates in the menu. And then there's about 10 different update messages. Look for announcing the grand opening of the community center, and in there is the link to the community center. All right, once you you'll have to register. It's a separate website. It's not the same website, it's a different website, and you'll register for that. It's like a forum. There's 9 different communities in there, and this will be in the legal self-defense community, these recordings. Okay, so just so you're clear on that. And that'll get you, this is number 4, I believe. And we'll keep weekly adding to these. Okay, so we'll go to Mike. You have your hand up?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about private member associations, let's say holding the vehicles. Let's say there's people have had problems with, and they want to drive without, driver's licenses and holding the vehicles in a private member association versus holding it in a corporation or a trust, and having the private membership association issue them a permission to drive, that they have authorization to not drive, but to travel using the vehicle as one of the members. Okay, getting around the licensing requirement.
Okay.
And maybe having the private membership association go across where they're, go across borders where, it's a private membership association of, let's say, another country, from another country. Okay.
All right.
Trying to get around that nexus of the minimum contracts thing that they're trying to always enforce against people who are trying to just carry on their own private business with traveling.
Yeah, my only comment to that was on the PMA, you really do not want any registrations or entanglements with the state whatsoever.
Right.
And so I would set up a separate trust simply to have the vehicle, hold the vehicle. And I remember I had some friends, they had a lot of fun with this. They'd set up a trust called the Independence Research Service, AKA IRS, or some name with FBI in it. They'd give it to the police officer. Oh, you're with the FBI? Oh, okay. And they had all kinds of fun with that.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So I would suggest keep that separate.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's simple and easy to do.
Yeah. As far as this working with like businesses that are restaurants and stuff like that, would it be where customers sign up as a member of the private member association? So that way, when they go in there, they're not wearing masks, they're this or that. And they say, well, look, this is a private membership association. You can't force these people to wear a mask because it's
Right.
a private membership association.
Yeah.
And puts a sheet around them.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions, I'm sure, about how to handle membership depending on the nature of the business. So, example, if you have a walk-in business, you could set up a list of benefits that could be delivered by email, information and education, and just create a list of benefits. That's not hard to do. And then one of the benefits would be with your $10 membership, you're entitled to 2 free Cokes and a sandwich, or, something like that, free.
Right.
So they're paying for the membership, and the food is one of the benefits. Okay.
Okay.
But there's so many things that can be done, ways to structure that depending on the nature of the business. So yeah, just takes a little imagination and a little discussion.
Well, we got to keep the businesses open. It's just terrible. It's what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. Okay, so yeah, I would keep the car separate from the main PMA. Keep it unfettered.
Okay.
So okay, thanks. Let's go to Greg. Greg, what's on your mind?
Hey, Mark, I was wondering if you'd have any issues using Federal Reserve notes or anything like that in the private, or would you have to exchange them for something else?
Well, Jacob was just talking before the meeting about they have their own beaver currency. Yeah, that's a delicate question, but I don't think that really has a whole lot of impact as far as what we're trying to accomplish. Obviously, if you can deal in gold or cryptocurrencies or some other species of money, that would be ideal. It's going to be difficult to do when you're dealing, with walk-ins, that aren't regular members. You might have a lot of temporary members come in, off the street type of thing. You could put a sign in your window saying, private members only, membership is open, inquire within, So it's kind of like private members only, stay out unless you're a member. But if you want to be a member, come and talk to us.
My friends in Hawaii traded dolphins and whale coins that when you come into their membership thing, you had change over to dolphins and whales to trade to buy stuff with.
No.
So you weren't trading Federal Reserve notes.
Okay.
Actually, cool coins. I have one of them.
Wow. Yeah. So you can get creative, depending on what this business requires, what the nature of the business is. If you've got a kind of a closed circle of clientele, maybe you're a pool maintenance guy and you have a list of clients and you make the rounds, every week. That would be a lot easier than, guy running a mini mart, on a downtown street corner or something, So, okay, good. Well, let's go to John Weissman. How you doing, John? Can you unmute yourself, John? Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mark, my question is, we want to stay on topic here, but what would be the contact email address
For
for
what?
you or the group,
Well,
CSN World?
we've got several, but for NATF, just go to the website. Just go to any given website, use the contact page.
Okay, I've tried it. I just haven't received any replies. I'll just go ahead and submit it again.
For which?
NATF.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll take a hard look and see if something was missed there. What was the name?
Yeah,
I
I brought it up. I brought it up last week, and I submitted another ticket and no response. So I'll try again.
No, I remember seeing that, and I thought it got responded to. So, yeah. In fact, I think we passed it. Well, let me double check, and I'll make sure to get a hold of you. Okay.
It's okay. John Wiseman. Thank you, sir.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah.
Bill Goulet.
We have a specialist in that area, John, and I think I passed that off to him. So let me follow up for you. Yeah. Hi, Bill.
Thank you.
Hi, Mark. I wondered if you could speak just a moment to not registering the entity, but obtaining what's necessary for doing banking. Thinking about, again, an eatery. Eateries take all sorts of different types of money. We were talking a moment ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
About FRNs. Many eateries today who might want to go to a PMA, they're dealing with things like credit card companies and so forth. So they've got some interesting nuances there. How would you help them, or how do you think a PMA would help them address that? How would they go about getting things like EINs for banking and such?
Yeah, well, for example, I've got one trust, another church. The trust is for church purposes. Each of them are separate entities. Each of them did get an EIN for banking purposes, and then appointed someone to handle the banking. Whether that be the principal or a power of attorney was given. Someone who's not the trustee, could be one of the trustees, or someone else who the trustees give a power of attorney to. So yeah, you can get an EIN, and we've had bank accounts set up, basically no problem.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah. Depending on, in the case of the ecclesiastical entity, we'll call it a trust. it is set up quite a bit differently than the average. And so the legal departments of the bank have to take a really close look at it. But that's on the ecclesiastical side because we put, basically we put God as the settler or exchanger and the creator and the trustee, but signed by different people on his behalf. So we had an early experience. The bank says, well, if God is in these positions, all we need is for God to come in and sign the papers. So what they did is you know, 3 different individuals signed on behalf as agents for God, working for him, which is entirely appropriate.
Hallelujah.
So so that was that story. But yeah, banking can be done. We're doing it.
Excellent. Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah. It's just someone needs to go put their name on the application for the EIN. That's no big deal. And probably to go into the bank, that individual who opens the account will probably be asked to have a social security number as well. So that may or may not be an issue for some people.
Have you noticed a secondary credit number, an SCN? Have you noticed that be useful for this sort of thing?
An SCN, what's that?
Yeah. Secondary credit number.
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's a number that people can use if they need to essentially restart their credit. So there's maybe a possibility there, but it occurs to me that if the PMA wants to remain untaxable to the nth degree, that when obtaining an EIN, if they have already an ecclesiastical, there's nothing preventing the second entity, the PMA, from being a spinoff of that 508.
Yeah, exactly.
One being able to apply as that, you know, an auxiliary of that church, and hence be completely disconnected or not having to do anything with trust or tax filing.
Yeah. In fact, that's exactly what we do. I've got, I don't know, probably close to a dozen different activities all linked to the church. Now, who's to say that the church can't engage in XYZ activity? You know, everything we do is for building the kingdom, and that's what those activities are set to do. So, yeah, the state has no interest in that whatsoever. So again, nobody can impose upon contracts. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Good. Okay, we'll go back to Charles. Charles Spradlin. Charles, you there? Apparently, mic's not working. Okay, John, back to John Weissman.
Yes, sir, Mark. Question regarding the various, could a person, or would you recommend a person stacking one trust inside of another? And I kind of my understanding was you more or less set up like a self-supported ministry or an ecclesiastical form of trust, and you would have trusts within that ministry?
Yeah, you could do that. In fact, depending on the size of the assets of a company, for example, you might set up a holding company. If you just imagine this diagram in your mind, okay? On the top, you've got the holding company. All right, let's say you've got a restaurant. You can divide that restaurant up into different entities. One is the operating entity. They do the banking, they handle the cash receipts, this, that, and everything else, okay? Then you've got the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. That could be held by a second entity, which leases the furniture, fixtures, and equipment to the holding company or to the operating company, okay? Then you've got the one that holds the real estate, if there's real estate involved. All right, that's separate. And the operating company would lease the property as well. Then you've got a fourth entity set up to handle employees, like an employee leasing company. And so that's spun off. So what the world sees is the operating company. That's the name, that's the receipts on the credit cards, that's everything else. But through
Gotcha.
these various contracts, the operating companies has to make all these payments to all these different companies. And so what people see, what would normally be a target for a lawsuit or harassment, doesn't own or hold anything. They got a bank account with $150 left at the end of the month.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
that's a little free consultation there for you.
Well, that's creative thinking. Thank you very much, Mark.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, we're kind of getting long in the tooth and far afield, so why don't we wrap it up here? And hopefully we'll see you next week. Go look at that video just for your own education on mmgcapital.biz. It's very informative. And then join us in CSN. There's a lot of stuff going on there. You'll get access to these recordings and a whole lot more. Okay, so that's the place to be. That's our private member association for those of you that might be interested. That's for NATF and several other things. That's our PMA is CSN, the Community Support Network. So anyway, with that, take care. Good evening. God bless. And
Prayer, Mark, finish off with a prayer, please.
all right. Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us this time together, for giving us these insights and discernment. Please give us the opportunity, the strength, and the will to apply this knowledge in a way that we can help expand your kingdom, giving glory to your name. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah. Thank you.
Okay.
Godspeed. Thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody.